everybody. In today's episode, we have Melissa Freedman. She is incredible, and you are going to absolutely love her. She is the founder of the Wealthy Women's Community. That's a private mastermind for women with 6 to 7 figure portfolios who want to elevate their finances, mindset, and impact while connecting with aligned, purpose-driven peers. Her journey from debt to private equity investor and respected industry super connector fuels her mission. See why I love her? She has worked alongside top cryptocurrency leaders in Miami, Austin, Puerto Rico, and the UAE, drawing insights from some of the world's most innovative wealth builders. Her background spanning entertainment, Coinbase, Hashflow, tons and tons of really cool stuff. She now blends her holistic strategy with intentional financial guidance to help individuals build wealth that reflects their values and vision. Here is Melissa. Hello and welcome to the Power Up Your Life podcast powered by GoBundance Women. I'm Mandy McAllister.
And I'm Kelly Resendez.
And today we have an investing lady powerhouse, Melissa Freedman. Hi, Melissa. So glad to have you here.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Well, before we dig into all of the stuff and how your brain works and how you got to where you're at, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey in your own words?
Yeah, I mean, just like every other person on this planet, I've had my financial ups and downs. And so I really had to learn and create a financial education and investment education on my own. I didn't have a traditional financial education. And so I was really fortunate that I made the effort to seek information and to go out and find all the resources that I need in order to create wealth. And now I'm so happy that I get to share it with other people along their journey.
I love that spirit of, we get two arms for a reason. Want to pull yourself up and want to pull other people up with you. And that is what you do with women. I would love to know, you've got this whole group of women that you get to lead in their financial growth, in their mindset financial growth, right? So is there a common thread of those who are most successful in growing their finances?
It's just consistency. Women who are consistently looking at what their whole financial picture is. And it's funny because I know we'll probably get to this, but I like to say the secret sauce is just understanding where you are first, ground zero,
Yeah.
in order to get to the tactical steps that you need to take in order to actually create the situation that you desire in your wealthiest life.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I've noticed in talking about money is there's a lot of fear of numbers when it comes to women. And like you just said, like start with where you are. Like what does that actually mean? Like do you recommend they do a budget? Like what do you actually have them go through to be able to know where they are? And then how do you get them to be able to feel as if they've already created more in the future?
I know you ladies work with a lot of entrepreneurs. So just like your business is a business, your finances should be a business. And so sitting down and actually looking at your whole financial, I would say, personality, basically like what is your risk tolerance? What are your timelines? What are your goals? Like what are the things that are incremental and important to you is going to set you up for success to accomplish those things, right? We don't go into creating a business and saying, "Oh, we're just going to figure it out as we go." We have a plan and we know how we're spending our money and we know where the money's going and we actually know how much we have to bring in to cover our costs. So, whether it's sitting down and doing this in partnership or doing this alone, it can be really scary. Like you said, a lot of people are afraid of looking at the tangible numbers, but really they're just numbers. And
Mhm.
so if you could sit down and say, once I know the reality of my situation, then I have the capacity to improve it, that's where everything really happens and the magic takes place.
This so rhymes with the way that I look at things. You made your money largely in crypto. I made mine in apartment building buying. And whenever I'm helping people start that, I talk about you got to put truth to the problem, right? So that's start where you're at and have a little calculator or a plan to know what the problem looks like from the beginning, and then just think next right step. I absolutely love that. In these women's journeys that you get that have the 6 and 7 figure portfolios, there's got to be, common areas where people get stuck. So, for when you get stuck, for when they get stuck, what are ways that you've seen or ways that you clear those barriers of being stuck for yourself or for others?
I think just like anything else, like there's steps that we don't want to take in our business to expand our business. There's steps that you don't want to take in your finances to shift your finances, whether that's really understanding what your options are when it comes to like debt or credit, and making yourself a really viable, credit like lender, basically somebody who can get access to a lot of credit and a lot of lending. Um, or whether it's really sitting down and, looking at what is the investment strategy? How am I breaking down what I'm investing in, what timeline, where, why, is super important because I think knowing yourself first is ground zero.
Yeah, and just having that awareness makes such a big difference too. So, I want to dig into crypto. It is something that we have not talked a lot about on here, and I'm guessing that our listeners have a wide range of understanding. Some people are like, I don't get it, so I'm not going to invest in it, which I don't think is the best decision. So, if you are talking to me like I'm a kindergartner, right? Tell me a little bit more about crypto because the truth is a lot of people have made a lot of money and lost a lot of money. And if you believe it's a really great strategy, like how do you explain what crypto is, tokenization is, how it really works?
Yeah. So crypto is basically like it's a token on the I don't I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. It's on the
Yeah.
blockchain, and basically what it is, just like you would, maybe invest in an ETF, you're not actually like holding the physical asset itself, like you're not actually going to be able to tangibly hold crypto in your hands, but you have access to a pool of funds that are going to change and shift based on the supply and demand, right? So what we've seen over the landscape of crypto is that crypto is going up and down a lot based on market sentiment. So it may feel scary to some people, but what it really is it's a new way to transact funds and to add value. It's created a whole new asset class for people that basically, may not have access to certain currencies or access to certain funds or credit. And so it's an easy way to transact, even like cross borderly or cross business wise. There's so many different types of tokens that you can invest in. I would say like the benchmark is Bitcoin. Everybody talks about Bitcoin like they would talk about the US dollar. So basically, when you're talking like the price of crypto, people are referencing the price of Bitcoin. And, Bitcoin is accessible now to everybody in ETFs. It's accessible in pensions, like statewide pensions and government pensions. It's accessible in the physical token that you can buy on a centralized or a decentralized exchange. Basically, the price of Bitcoin and other tokens will go up based on supply and demand. I would say if you're really nervous about investing in crypto, talk to somebody who's very knowledgeable about investing in general, like a financial advisor. They'll tell you based on your risk tolerance to, make 10 to 40% of your portfolio a crypto allocation because they see it as a increasing asset that you can hold over a long period of time. And just like gold, you would want to maybe put a portion of Bitcoin or Ethereum in your investment portfolio. Yes, I'm very heavy in crypto, Mandy. That is how I created my wealth in addition to tech stocks. And so that is because I'm an incredibly risky investor and I don't
Mhm.
advise most people to invest based on how I invest. I tell them to invest based on their risk tolerance. And I think that's
Right.
super important and that creates a lot of value. But I continue to see I know we're in, like, a weird situation right now with crypto and Bitcoin in particular, where everybody's expecting it to be much more inflated in value than it is. Uh, but at present, it's just, it's an asset that I think that you would hold in your portfolio for an extended period of time. Maybe it's a legacy asset that you would want to pass down to the next generation in my eyes. So it's something that I definitely advise everybody to at least get like 5% of their allocation in cryptocurrency, whether that's an ETF or the token itself. I do really feel like, as much as we don't want the world to go digital fully and for us to have digital currencies, it's happening regardless. So I think we all have to partake.
I
Yeah.
think it's the single most truthful way of recording what has happened. I think it's undeniable that blockchain will change how things are recorded in the future. I personally bought some that were backed by stuff. The thing about Bitcoin that made me nervous is that it's not backed by anything. So I love what you're doing, and I love that you do more of what you know. The tech stocks and the double down on the stuff that you know. Like it's the Andrew Carnegie saying, I do put all of my eggs in one basket, but then I really watch that basket, and I've really done the same in multifamily. Let's change gears just a little bit and go back to women and investing. There's a stigma. Not only do I not like to look at the numbers, there's a stigma about talking about money. There's the stigma about stating a net worth, and that's impolite. And you're a sweet little girl, honey, sit down. Talk to me about the mindset work that you do with your women, and maybe some like actionable patterns that you see for yourself or others.
I think the stories I hear over and over, because you talked about how, yeah, basically it could be a male dominated industry. It feels like investing is really challenging because there may be a barrier to entry for women, but it actually doesn't exist anymore. Personally, I feel like we're perpetuating those stories more than men are these days.
Mm.
I could be wrong, but it's my belief that sitting down and saying, okay, it's fine that you didn't get a traditional education. It's fine that you're afraid and you're in fear that maybe if you actually invest, you will lose it all. But working through that regardless. And so I like to say, like, move despite the fear, move despite the negative self-talk. And so the actionable things that I do with clients are just, I really love certain modalities like emotion freedom technique, like, emotional freedom technique, EFT, where you do like tapping on acupressure points on the body. It gives oxygen to the body and oxygen to the brain so that we can move faster. I really love like NLP reprogramming, neuro linguistic reprogramming. I also, which Tony Robbins does. I'm sure like a lot of women in your network are very familiar with NLP. And then other things I would say is, finding the support system and the people that really are going to help you get educated. And it's very easy. There's so much information out there. It's incredibly accessible. Um, and ask the questions. There's the biggest thing that I did for myself was put myself in rooms where I was super afraid and super vulnerable, but I asked anyway. And now I'm excited to say that I am in rooms with men all the time, and I'm the only female and the only one asking all the questions. So it's been a great experience.
That's amazing, and so, so important to do that. Getting outside of our comfort zone is what's gonna get us to the next level. So, talk a little bit about, the power of proximity. We've heard that. When it comes to wealth, that's also one of those things that I know some women have struggled with. Like, I know a lot of our women in GoBundance feel like they're too much. They might be the most successful person, and that could hinder a little bit. How important is it in to find a community, and like what's the main reason why you ended up, creating your own? You could have just done this on your own continuously. Instead, you decided to invest in supporting other people.
These are great questions. Yeah, I decided to create this community because I woke up one morning and my investments were what I never anticipated they would be. I was wealthier than I'd ever been before. I didn't understand how to preserve and grow this wealth even more. And I looked around me and I was all alone. And I was like,
Mhm.
the money means nothing if you're not next to the people that you love and around people
Mhm.
that you want to share with. Am I right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this around incredible women who also want the same thing. Because when women have money, it multiplies, it benefits communities, it benefits families. And so I'm a big advocate of making sure that we're all growing together. And so that's what really drove me to doing this work and creating community. And then on top of that, really, sorry, I want to go back to your first question, Kelly, because I know it was like a double
Yeah.
question, and I was trying to
Well,
remember.
yeah. I mean, the biggest question is just how important is this power of proximity
Oh
in
yeah.
making you feel like you belong?
Thank you for reminding me. It's just that day, I needed a refresher. Power of proximity is really important. They say all the time, like peak performers do even better when they're in work environments next to other high performers. And I've worked in tech companies, I've worked in blockchain companies. That's why I became an investor in tech and blockchain, because I was working in those environments. I was aware of what was happening in the industry. I, was able to ask people around me questions and get educated. And being next to a CEO, a CFO of the companies that I was working for completely changed the way that I showed up, right? It's the proximity of being a peak performer is
Mm,
amazing. I've been hosting these women's groups here in Austin, these gatherings, and it's just incredible to see all of these women being uplifted in a physical room with other women. I know you ladies experience it at your conferences. If if you are a peak performer and you feel like you are performing and accelerating beyond your current community or your current network, I would say like, put yourself in different networking rooms where you're going
mm,
to meet other people and they will expand your consciousness in other ways, whether it's like getting knowledge about an industry that they're working in that you never experienced before, or a new way to optimize your business or your investments that you never experienced before. There's information circulating faster in smaller groups than it is actually in like larger capacity on like chat gpt and Google AI. And what I'm seeing for us is, when I want referrals and I want information, I'll go into my WhatsApp groups and my private
mm,
communities and I'll say, can you refer me to somebody, like who's doing this, who's doing that? And I'll take a referral from a personal connection or somebody that's in proximity to my connection even faster. So being in proximity of these like smaller communities are what I think accelerates us even faster. I just did a women's panel. I know, Kelly, I'm like giving you so much,
I
such a
love
long
it.
answer to this question. I just did a women's conference a few weeks ago, and I was on a panel, and I said, we need to stop doing all the things and putting our energy into the things that we are not an expert in. And so the funniest thing is, I feel like us as women, we're always trying to improve all of our shortcomings and all of the things that we know we need to work on versus actually leaning into the things that we do really
Mm,
great and outsourcing all the things that we don't do great to get support, because that's going to move us even faster. So as a peak performer, if you're not physically in those rooms or you can't physically be in those communities, start leaning in and focusing on the things that you are an expert in and start like
mm.
pushing everything that you're not an expert in that you think you need to improve over to outsourced resources to get help.
Oh,
Oh,
so
not
good.
how. Somebody else will love the thing that you hate for sure. And that data that you were referencing, that if you're next to a peak performer, you're going to perform better. Well, the converse is even more true. I think it's 15% greater output if you're sitting in 25 feet from someone who is a high performer. Well, if you're 25% or 25 feet from someone who is a poor performer, you go down 30%. So get rid of those people who are toxic. Uh, so you've got to be unconventional to, lean into crypto in the way that you have, to be a female investor in a room where there aren't a ton of females. What are some other unconventional strategies to life, to leadership, to investing that you believe to be true that other people might disagree with?
I believe that it's more important for us to actually know ourselves and then like strategize and create our reality from who we are versus trying to listen to the external chatter. So I think there's so many people that are like, going to a financial advisor and the financial advisor would say, invest in X, Y, and Z and do this, this, and that. And they're not necessarily asking what we want out of these desired results. And so it's really saying, here's the blueprint to who I am, going to a financial advisor or a wealth manager and saying, like, now this is what I've done. How do we optimize it and make it even better? Um, because I think using that opportunity to really get to know ourselves first and start from like who we are and then sift through information and everything all around us in the external environment after that is going to completely change our lives. And just like for me, I'm like you're on an upwards trajectory with that.
Oh my goodness. And that's so important, just that awareness, because I think we hand over our wealth to other people because we don't think that we know enough rather than starting with what we really desire. So, I'm sure you've really seen people make a lot of mistakes when it comes to their wealth and their money. What are some of those top mistakes that you see people make, and what would you tell them to do instead of that?
I think people right now, a lot of people are very excited by opportunities to multiply their wealth that are, circulating all around the internet. People get excited. Even incredibly intelligent, wealthy women come to me and say, I invested in X, Y, and Z. I didn't realize it was a scam. How can I get a 10x multiplier out of this in the next year? And there are ways to do those things. It's really sitting down and saying, "Are you willing to take those steps to do those things?" Because sometimes the risk is a lot higher. And I think it's really understanding how to sift through information is our biggest asset in the future that we're going into in this world, because we are inundated and overwhelmed by information. So
Mm.
understanding how to really sit down and like weed out all of our options, weed out all the information that's coming to us is going to be the biggest asset that we can have in surviving this like AI boom and this next
Yeah.
generation that we're going to experience.
Mm. Yeah, you gotta be your own filter, and you've got to the ultimate luxury, the ultimate win is being able to trust your own judgment. Gosh, do I love that, Melissa. You've said a lot of stuff here that I have written down. My couple favorites were, move despite the fear, move despite the, whatever that thing is, you need to be moving to move forward. And then the put yourself in a room and ask the question, so I think that this is incredible, and this is the reason why all of us create these rooms and this women's wealth symposium that we'll be having in Dallas on International Women's Day. That there, that is our goal for that, is to get women in the room asking questions, and we're going to be excited to get you to be a part of that. Kelly, what were your favorite parts?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part is just really truly that you have to have self-awareness and knowing what you really desire before you go hand over things. And then also being real about where you are right now. Really looking at where you are and where you want to go so that you can create those steps. I think avoidance around money and wealth has been the go-to rather than just being radically honest with yourself. So, you have been a wealth of information. And the one thing, Melissa, we love doing here on the Power Up Your Life podcast and in GoBundance Women is really finding ways to support our guest as well. So, what is a resource or connection or, anything that we can do to support you in your life?
I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share my work and my passion for life on this podcast. So just spreading the word about, the fact that I want more women to be in rooms having more conversations about growing their investment portfolios, growing their wealth. And so thank you for asking.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram at Melissa Lindsay Freedman, or they can go to wealthywomenscommunity.com.
Mm.
Beautiful. We will make sure that those are in the show notes. Melissa, you are a gem. Feel so completely aligned with all that you have going on. Thank you for joining us today. And everyone who is listening, if you are a woman or you know a woman who needs to really step into her voice and learn from the inside out what wealth means to her, share this episode. Make sure you're liking and subscribing so that we can get into more ears. And if you want to power up your business, go to Power Up Your Life now and look look for all those resources that we have to help you in supporting that. So we will see you next week.
Thanks.